This is the Marketing Umbrella Podcast, where it's all about getting the information you need from successful leading marketers to build and grow your digital marketing agency. Brought to you by Itamar Shafir, founder and CEO of Umbrella, the technology platform and brand that is powering thousands of marketing agencies around the country. Find him at umbrellaus.com. Now, here's your host, Kevin Pruitt.
This is the Marketing Umbrella Podcast. I have a great guest with me today. He is the CMO and co-founder of Penji, a creative subscription service revolutionizing how businesses access top-tier creative talent. He's bootstrapped from the ground. Penji has served thousands of clients worldwide and earned recognition as an Inc. 5000 company. With a background in international studies and business, he transformed early entrepreneurial challenges into opportunities by making creative talent more accessible for businesses of all sizes. Outside of Penji, he's a storyteller. I can't wait to get into that. And content creator, husband, father, and business leader. His guiding principle is simple: help those who help others. Whether discussing business growth, bootstrapping success, or balancing life and leadership, he delivers authentic, practical insights to every conversation. Please join me in welcoming Johnathan Grzybowski to the Marketing Umbrella Podcast. Johnathan, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I hope I could be practical. I am your servant today, and I plan on doing as much as I possibly can to help you guys.
It's going to be interesting because each one of these is different because they're unique around the guests that we have on. But no, your bios are sometimes they sound kind of sterile even as they're being read, and you're sitting there listening to your life story in a 30-second clip. But what's some other things that you just round it off and give our audience a little better idea of who Johnathan is?
It's a really good question. I mean, it's like a very complex answer, of course, but I'll try to keep it brief. I have a 4-month-old daughter, so I am a father now. My life completely changed when the minute that she was born in the best possible way. Kevin, do you have children?
I have 4 kids and 4 grandkids. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's you're very blessed indeed.
Very blessed.
For me, I think, first and foremost, I would say in the very beginning of my career, I'm an entrepreneur first, right? And then like as you get older and more experienced, I would probably say husband, father first, entrepreneur, business professional second. And then from that point on, in terms of like what has happened, the reason why we're here is talking about Penji. So Penji is a creative subscription service, and we primarily work with digital marketing agencies. So if a business doesn't necessarily want to hire their first hire, whether it be in the United States or even somewhere else, we provide the creative arm for those individuals that may not necessarily have the funds to hire an in-house person full-time. May not want to go through all the BS of trying to hire somebody themselves, or maybe they just want to save costs related to scaling the business.
Right.
And so a service like Penji is able to provide hundreds of different types of creative categories that you could choose from, and we're going to pair you with the best possible creative on our team at all times. And then if you like that person, you can be assigned to that person full-time as if that they are your full-time designer, video expert, developer, whatever it may be. And so Penji, to kind of round out who I am, I would say in a couple words, I'm just an individual that never stopped. And I'm really proud that the problem that we're solving at Penji is so large that I'm motivated to solve it every single day.
So many times on these interviews, these chats, the product, the service, the company was kind of built out of an itch that the creator actually had individually. Like they had this problem, they solved it internally and thought, well, actually we can scale this, and this is actually a thing,
Yeah, for sure.
So is that the case with you? Were you trying to solve this issue for yourself?
100%. I am complete garbage at graphic design. Man, I should take a photo of this and maybe I'll send it to you afterwards. My wife and I went over a couple of friends' house maybe a couple months or so ago, and it was like a paint and sip type of thing. And then I had to draw my wife had to draw me. my wife drew this absolutely stunning photo of, painting of me, and like I feel like I look pretty good. She looked absolutely horrendous. Like she was like, I would say my wife is I mean, she's very beautiful, but she's very fit. She looked like a cross between like Shrek and Bigfoot in and a pig. Like it was just absolutely garbage. So like I'm complete trash at graphic design. And so when I first started a digital marketing agency many years ago, finding reliable talent was really difficult, especially in the States. And I want to speak nothing about the politics that are going on or the economics specifically, but my personal experience, people want to have a job description in the States. If you go outside of that job description, they demand to be paid more. And that's hard for a small business because like, today is a Friday. In the very beginnings of a business, like things can change at the drop of a hat. So, you could be a digital marketer today and you can be like a door service delivery person tomorrow. It's just, that's just the way life is. And so being able to outsource and find reliable talent has been very difficult. And then when we started from a digital marketing agency standpoint, and I think this will be helpful to your audience, getting our first 100 customers was literally in our backyard. So our backyard, this is my dog, by the way. She's a Great Dane, 130 pounds of beautiful,
That's right.
beautiful
A
dog.
lap dog.
Yes, very much so lap dog for sure. Her name's Mabel. But anyways, first ever appearance on a podcast. So you're welcome, Kevin. Um,
Buy one, get one free.
yeah, exactly right. So the first like 100 customers that we had, and we could dive into this deeper, but essentially the first 100 customers were in our backyard. So we
Mhm.
literally just asked and say, hey, if we build this service, are you having the same problem? And then from there, it kind of just grew to what it is today. And believe it or not, right now our services at to start are $1,000 per month. We offered our services for $79 per month in the very beginning because we had no idea of like what the cost was. We had no idea what the service could be. But we just knew that it was a huge problem and people validated that for us.
It is interesting to see like the transformation of like running your own, agency to like really honing in on a specific like maybe a vendor or service of an agency, is this the
Yeah,
creative space. So, the first thing, if I'm a listener, the first thing I'm hearing it's like, well, this is like a kind of a white glove Fiverr,
sure.
that you're providing. So,
Yeah.
but walk me through the differences of, how you are more proactive, you're more intentional, you're more whatever, instead of just this virtual, category or pool of candidates.
Yeah, for
Like,
sure. So, nothing against the other company that you mentioned, nothing against any of these services that are out there, but when you go into these websites, you more or less have to vet and find individuals. And
mhm,
so you can look at their profile, you could judge them on what they look like, you could judge them on their profile, their bio, or their honestly their price. I
mhm.
would say is probably
Yep.
like the biggest thing.
It's a race to the bottom.
Um, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you pretty much like go in and you sort and say cheapest, and then you figure it out, right? But then what ends up happening, especially in those particular models, is you find out that the cheapest is 72-hour delivery, right?
Mhm.
And then if you want to do like a 24-hour or 12-hour delivery, it's going to be significantly higher or whatever that may be. But what if there was a service that allowed you the ability to be connected within minutes, within
Mhm.
seconds? And you can submit your project literally at 11 o'clock in the morning and then receive it by the end of the day, right? Like, and in addition to that, being able to talk to somebody that understands your company without you having to educate them. I
Right.
think what a lot of times there's small businesses that are out there that think that they can spend less money and it not necessarily, and then they think more about their wallet, right? And they just go, okay, well, I have $50 in the bank right now, and I need to be able to spend 50 because that's the best that I can do.
Mhm.
But they don't necessarily think about the cost associated with that when it comes to time
Mhm.
management, looking over the project, waiting for the project, and so they get into this paralysis, so to speak. and that ends up being far more costly than anything else. So that's more or less like the service is you just kind of sign up, you pay, you get access to the best talent in the world, and the rest is history. You receive good work.
Is it a flat rate, like regardless of what the service is, or are there tiers, like maybe a web designer's this versus just a graphic artist or social media,
Yeah.
creative, whatever? I mean, I guess are there different levels of skills offered
There's
within
no
Penji?
different levels of skills. And we were actually very intentional in that. So there's two parts of that question. So there are levels in terms of what you have access to.
Hmm.
Because, for example, if you wanted a website design, to pay for somebody for a whole month at basically around $1,000-ish, that's pretty much unheard of, at
Yeah,
least. So that would be rather, but in terms of the hierarchy, is based on the categories that are unlocked. So like the first service is basically just like a general marketer type. The second is going to be like more web design, and then the third is going to be more or less around like the high level agencies that want to be able to outsource their entire design team or just add additional
right.
support. So in terms of categories, yes. In terms of skill set, no. We
Hmm.
want to make sure that like the best of the best are always available to you regardless of the
Hmm.
matter. However, there is geography involved.
Right.
So, for example, if you wanted a designer or a creative in the United States time zones, it's going to be a little bit of a different product. Whereas if you wanted somebody that's located in an Asian country, so to
Yeah.
speak, your expectations are that they're going to be working while you sleep.
Right. Like the asynchronous versus we on one like service on demand type thing. So, or
Exactly.
responsiveness on demand. It is interesting to me when I look at these companies that are created like yours on like a two-sided marketplace, type thing that you're providing there, is how AI is going to have an impact in that space. And
Sure.
we talk about that's kind of the golden question especially in the last 18 months or so that we've had this
Yeah.
conversation is what have you seen, and how have you guys responded to kind of the AI avalanche that's happening?
100%. You have to work. It has to work together with you. If you are negligent about it or don't address the elephant, then I think shame on you personally.
It's
But I mean,
coming.
how
You can't bury your head in the sand. Yeah.
it is, and I would say it's like almost here. But I would say I don't think it's ever going to replace a job, right?
Hmm.
I think it can replace other jobs, but I don't
Right.
necessarily think it will fix creative jobs. So if you were to go use AI right now, again, a lot of benefits. I would still confidently say at this exact moment, and even if it was at the highest caliber of quality, you still have to have an individual get involved to make it unique to you.
Mm.
And I don't think that there will ever be a time where that can be replaced.
Yeah.
So, sure, your content can be created in a second. But how many times have you used ChatGPT and had to modify 600 times in order to get the product that you're looking for?
Yeah. I would say
Again,
every time.
every time.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
use ChatGPT like for everything.
Hmm.
Like literally everything. How to respond to like my wife in an argument. Like I've used ChatGPT for it just to make sure that like I don't lose my head.
Things not to say to your wife when she's angry at you.
Yes. That shirt looks big on you today, sweetie. But yeah, I mean, it's just like small little things like that always require a little bit of tweaking, and I think that you have to be understanding that that's what it's going to be.
Hmm.
I just think that people are starting to get, and I don't know where it's coming from specifically, but people are starting to just get a little bit cheap and not necessarily believe in like quality talent. Obviously, the people that do are our customers, but when
Right.
you're first starting out, like you need a reliable resource. You can't do it yourself. You need to be working on sales. Who cares about the like? Of course, you should care about the product, but like sales is what cures everything. So
Hmm.
the more sales that you get, the more people you could hire. And if you don't focus on that in the very beginning of your career, then why even have a business in the first place?
One thing you were talking about early that kind of came to mind was, when you were talking about benefits to as an agency owner, using a service like this. One thing is just the rapid change of demand. So like, you may be very busy for a week and then for a week you're not busy at all. So there's this
Yeah.
constant change of workload, on especially early, that I think a service like this would be able to help you as a new founder or whatever, weather those better than hiring four people and then a month from now you only have work for one of them,
100%. Yeah.
certainly
I mean,
navigate that better.
yeah, I mean, and I would also say, so one thing in particular, if you go back to the bio, specifically, I listed two things that I'm working on. One of which is a podcast called Dear Dads that shares my journey of being a dad, and then the other one is another idea is called Free Ideas, and it's essentially me recreating up to a podcast, but me recreating my podcast, but also recreating a digital marketing agency using Penji specifically.
Hmm.
So I think, if there's ever a time where you have lull periods, that's even better for a service like Penji, because you could just start creating content for yourself when you have these lull periods. Or what I'm actually doing is like having the clients in the digital marketing agency, we're like creating content up until like May right now. So like again, I'm fully transparent. We haven't gotten a new client in a couple of months from this. I'm not really trying, to be fair, but I'm satisfied with where that other second company is at this exact moment. So no new client is coming in. The work is being done. So just like extend further. So then that way the Penji people can focus on that. They're not, they're still busy. I'm still getting value from the
Mhm.
service that I'm paying for. And then, when that lull period ends, hopefully by May, there's 2, 3, 4, 5 more clients, whatever that may be, that now you can focus all of your energy on. So again, Penji, like you said, is like, bias, of course, the best type of service for things like that, because you could use it for any way that you want.
Hmm. Sure. I mean, it's very flexible and the service is provided as well. Just and it is on demand, kind of a,
Exactly
as
right.
needed. And like you said, can be ramped up this afternoon if you had to have it done type thing.
Exactly
So
right. Yeah,
uh,
100%.
you, I've heard you, on other podcasts, talk about like, kind of some lessons learned and just like, navigating this space as a founder. Talk about just what are one or two just really key lessons that you've learned as a founder when you've bootstrapped, Penji from nothing, from an idea, sitting in a chair, thinking, this is this is a needed service. I need this service. I built it. Now, actually, others could use the same service. But what are some lessons that you've learned in pivots and what does it look like? Maybe the part B of that question is what does it look like now versus that first, napkin that you kind
Yeah.
of described it on?
Yeah. It actually was on a napkin, more or less. It was actually in a,
You
it
know,
was
say
in a,
Waffle House.
yeah, no, I wish. That would probably be a more like wholesome American story. But it was actually in Vietnam in an ice cream shop.
Hey, you went global. There you go.
That's a story for another day. Things that I've learned, the two things I think I kind of I hinted at it earlier. Number one is going to be the problem. I think like if the problem that I'm solving right now wasn't large enough, I would have probably not had the fuel to continue doing this, because you will get tired. I've never had a job, so I'm 36 and I've celebrated close to 12, 13 years of doing this. I think so. If that problem wasn't large enough, it would make absolutely no sense for me to do so.
Hmm.
That in itself is like really, really good to know. And I don't, and I hope the people that are listening to this, like they understand it, because right now, if they're just starting out, they're like really passionate about the particular thing that they're trying to solve. And it's like, you know what, like this guy's saying that, and like, of course, my problem is my app idea is great. It's going to solve so many things for so many people. And the short answer to that is it doesn't. I mean,
Hmm.
how many apps have you downloaded in the past 5 years? I would probably say five. Like I average one per year. So your little app is probably not going to work. The service is probably going to die because you're just not going to be passionate about it. So the problem has to be huge. Number two, I would say, is communication. And I say naturally, I'm a really bad communicator, but over the years, I've realized that you have to have the right tools to be able to communicate better. So I personally use Trello and Notion. Big fans of those two companies. I use Trello to indicate what are the three most important things that I need to get done in a day. And then Notion is literally how I describe and I give tasks to team members. And I want to be very specific because this actually relates to Penji as well. If you were to go up to Penji and just say, and this is what unfortunately a lot of our customers, why they cancel. You go up to Penji and you say, I want a website, or I want a logo, right? And I want the logo, or how about this? I want a Zoom background because your Zoom background is actually very specific, Kevin. I want a Zoom background with New York City as the backdrop. I want it to be blue. I want it to be, very just like one-dimensional type of shading. Okay, that sounds great. But I can almost guarantee you that the person that you say that to is not going to fully understand what you actually want.
What's the brief?
It's going to take a couple of iterations in order to get that. Now you lose time. If you were to be as specific as possible, I want this building, this building, this building in the background. I want the Statue of Liberty to be present. I want there to be cascading colors that start from dark all the way up to light. And I want the background to be looking like a rainbow for that to be cascading as well. Super clear, far more clear. I see more people doing the first than the second, right? The second is how success, in my opinion, happens. Because if you can actually be more specific in what you're trying to say, and you use ChatGPT to kind of write out what you want and then modify it yourself in order to deliver that to the team, you're going to gain so much more time back in your day because you won't have to readdress all the crap that you missed out on. Hey, I want you to send 100 emails to, insurance companies. And I want you to get 10 sales a week, right? And you're like, the person that you give that task to is like, sure, they're going to say yes because you're the boss, right? Yep. They're not going to question you. But then at the end of the day, you're going to check back because you have other crap that you have to do. And then you're going to be like, hey, man, I tasked you to get 10 sales in a week, and now I'm struggling and I don't know what to do. Well, that's the reason why is because you as a leader are not communicating effectively. And you're confusing, and you just need to own that and fix it now before it gets really, really bad.
I would echo that sentiment, not only from directional on, like supervisory direction, but also like project mandate. Like what is the brief that you want to have happen? I mean, how can you almost over communicate, on the front end?
And deadlines, I think. That was something else that I didn't realize that were important because I just gave a task the other day for a particular department in our company. And I was just like, hey, make sure that you call all customers. And, I wanted to start this day. By this day, you do this. By this date, you should be done, right? Something along those lines. But then I never realized that I didn't give a date, a final date as to when you need to complete this entire task by. So I gave the 3 dates of like what are important,
on the milestones.
So then what happened was the couple of the people were like, oh well, we did it, but we only got to 80%, and I wanted 100%. So the person was right, and I apologized. I said, you're 1,000% right. I never gave you the exact deadline of when all of this should be done, and I'm sorry. So clarity and deadlines dates are really, really important.
Let me ask you, because I think this would come up in your business all the time. I love the idea that's to kind of drill down a little bit just on the deadline thing. So now my limited experience has been, what is the principle that says you will expand work to the time allotted, for the work. And so have you found that if you create deadlines that almost are pressured deadlines, that work gets done better and on a more timely basis than if you kind of allow, hey, I'm going to allow you a broad berth here of, to get this work done in case things, for contingencies, in case things happen or whatever. Because
Yeah.
to be honest with you, I probably work better under tighter deadlines than I do under, you're giving me
Yeah.
2 weeks to do this project. I'll probably wait till the day before to start it, type thing. So what,
Yeah.
there's a
It's
balance there, I know, but what has
for
been your
sure.
experience?
It's a really good question. I don't know if I have like a really good answer for you.
And there may not be one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I
One
mean,
size
like
fits all.
I've seen a lot of things. I'll say this. If you give a long deadline, you'll find that it weeds out the good people from the bad people. So if you have like a larger team, you more, at least for me, I want to work with people who are self-motivated, who I don't
Hmm.
have to push. And I've strategically have move people away from the teams that I work on specifically. Like they might be really good at their job, but they're just like not a good fit working with me. And so I really like working with people that are self-motivated. I don't have to like say something motivational or get on a call with them to kind of kick them in the butt. Um, so I've done both where it's like needs to be done by Friday and then it gets done. But usually what I find is the best type of workers are the ones that have a 2 week deadline or whatever that time frame is, and then they get it done like the next day.
Yeah.
So I would say like, if you're just starting out hiring somebody, maybe you give a softer deadline and just see how long it takes them to do it.
Hmm.
Whereas, and then on the alternative, when you start to work with them a little bit more, you do a harsher deadline and then see how they react. I've found at least from all of our, I would say 99% of our company is from a different country
Hmm.
globally.
Hmm.
We only have a few people here in the United States, and that's actually done by design. We used to have an office. We don't have an office. I would say at times it's cultural too.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, Whereas like you give a harsher deadline, it's like they freak out.
Hmm.
Whereas a little bit more lenient, again, it's also ultimately person based.
Yep. It's people
But
management.
yeah, yeah. But at the same time, I have noticed some particular trends where it is at times potentially cultural.
No, and I really like the way you kind of approach it. Says, actually there is no silver bullet. It's just like, what is going to be most effective,
But also for
in
you too,
managing those.
like I don't think I want to work in like has to be done tomorrow. Like if it has to be done tomorrow, which sometimes it does, but if you
Yeah,
do it a lot, it's
yeah.
like, okay, well that's actually a reflection on you than it is because you're the bum that's not organized,
That's a great point. Yeah, and
Yeah.
these not I wasn't talking about like artificially strict
For
deadlines. I mean,
for
but
sure.
like, you know, I do think if I've been given a wide berth on a project, I probably am thinking I've already calculated in my mind how long it's going to take me to do that.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to say, okay, then I have all this margin that I can start filling with other things,
Yeah.
in that
Yeah. Well,
space.
I think also to kind of piggyback on that same topic, right? So like you get a task and then you kind of figure out like think about from a business standpoint of you just starting out and then you receive like an email and then that email in particular completely spikes your anxiety. It completely spikes your, stress. And then you think that that particular email or that particular task is the most important task that
Hmm.
completely takes you away from everything else in your business. And that is simply not true
Hmm.
because I promise you what a test that I do with customer support people and sales is a little bit different, but support people, somebody complains and they're like, my life is ruined. I hate you. You've ruined my business, yada, yada. And I tell the support people, they're like, should I email them now? Should I email them now? It's been an hour. It's been 2 hours. It's been 6 hours. And I always say to them, wait till tomorrow. And then after the tomorrow comes, I tell them wait another day. And then
Mm.
sometimes I literally say like they have to wait 2 or 3 days in order for them to respond to that particular email until the person I noticed that they become less anxious in their response.
Mm.
And then once I see that they're a little bit less anxious, then I feel that they're now capable of answering that customer's concerns because they could do so in a little bit more of a less emotional approach.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, that's a life lesson right there. Sometimes you don't need to send that email right now. You need to wait 24 hours and sleep on that one before. Yeah,
100%.
have somebody else read it before you
Yeah,
hit send.
100%.
Uh,
100%.
you talked earlier about, hey, sales is kind of that's the watershed. I mean, sales is king, but you
Always.
also, I know that you had a really high focus on just the customer experience.
Yeah.
If you talk about that in the sales process or in the sales delivery process, expand on that just a little bit. Why do you place such a high focus on that?
Uh, I love food. Um, and if you can go, do you like food? Like, are you a foodie?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Uh, so I would say that like the best experiences have always been hospitality driven for me. Whether that be at a hotel or whether that be at a restaurant, right?
Hmm.
I'm trying to think of it like a very specific example for you, but you order a bottle of wine. They come up to you and they show you the bottle of wine. They give you a sip. Now, there are reasons for that, but for the most part, it's predominantly show, right?
Presentation, yeah.
Presentation and prestige. But let's just say that you like get a tour of the chef comes out and meets you, or you go to a restaurant and then it's your anniversary and then they say happy anniversary as soon as you walk in the door, right? It's like those things that drive you to want to come back, and it improves the overall experience. And I would say that like the customer experience is very similar to that for me, because we're a service-based business. You can't touch anything. You can't you can't feel anything. And so the only emotion that we really have is how we make them feel and how they're
Mm,
treated.
yeah.
And so for me, the customer experience is literally everything, because that's the only aspect that we have. And so what I try to do from a customer service standpoint with the team is make sure that you start with a warm greeting. Um, we are very specific on you cannot hide behind an email. You have to get on a video call. You have to get on a physical call. If they don't want to jump on a video call, then you call them directly. They have to hear your voice. They have to see your face. You can screen record as well. And then the last thing is like we're good at our job, right? The company is really good at creating things, but we're not a fit for everybody. So
Hmm.
people are going to say like, oh, well, Penji was here's the thing. If somebody hates Penji, I want them to say, well, they gave me a crappy product, excuse me,
Mm.
but at least they cared about me. And that's more or less what I want people to walk away from when they use the service. Now, obviously, the people who love Penji, that's even better, because they're like, wow, this company produces amazing work and they love me, they care about me. I think that's like the biggest thing from a customer experience standpoint, is making other people feel that they matter. And at the end of the day, like, the Marketing Umbrella podcast is your baby, right? So like how often have you met somebody randomly and shared about how awesome your podcast is, right? So it's like one of those things where like you're proud of it, and we want to understand how proud you are and be able to elevate it to the
Mm.
next level.
That's great. I love it. And your satisfied employees are some of your best ambassadors for sure.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
they are the face of your company to your clients. And so,
100%.
you're focusing on that for sure. I do want to kind of wrap up this segment of our chat, and right before we hop into the rapid,
Sure.
question area. But one final question I've got about, integrating this with marketing agencies. Could this be, is this a white label service? Is this how does it practically work itself out? If I'm an agency owner and I'm contacting you and I've got some deliverables for some clients here, am I working with Penji to, I guess, have people that are an extension of my
Yeah.
marketing agency doing these services, or am I connecting my client with Penji? What's the integration?
So the answer is right now we are an extension, but shortly we will be your entire integration and team. So the idea would be you become a customer of Penji and then you never hire another person ever again, right? Like that's the ultimate goal. We don't want you to bring somebody on in-house because of the way that our service works. At some point in time, we do want marketing agency customers to actually talk to our designers, but it's always going to look like we don't want your customers to know that Penji exists. That would be like our biggest win. So some like 60-ish% of our customer base are digital marketing agencies, and right now they have a liaison, primarily like one individual that submits all the projects and then manages the projects, sends it to the customer for the full customer experience. That works really well, and it's not broken, but we want to try to improve it. So if your customers never know that Penji exists, home run for us.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that approach. And I think it would be able to enable a marketing agency to expand their services and even look larger than they may be. So, that I'm glad that you
100%.
clarified that. If Penji had a tagline, what is their tagline?
That is a really good question. And that's like been my Achilles heel for like years. I don't know. like right now it's always it's a creative subscription service revolutionizing how businesses access top tier talent. That's obviously not a tagline. But like we haven't really found it yet. And I'm just gonna be honest. I don't know. There are so many ways to explain the service, but like you mentioned the word silver bullet. I don't think we've ever found that silver bullet that could, and that's probably the phase in business that we're in right now. Like we have amazing thousands of clients and hundreds and almost thousands of designers, but we're still like in our teenage phase of figuring us out. And I'll just leave it at that. Like even myself, I hope I explained myself quite well today, and I hope that people can know that like that I'm hopefully a good Sherpa in order on the guide to entrepreneurship and business. But at the same time, you also have to know that our businesses aren't perfect and I'm not perfect and we don't have it yet. So, and that's going to be okay too, because we're still successful when we don't have it.
Right.
So if we do have it, imagine if what will happen next.
There's your tagline. We're not perfect, but we still deliver. You know,
Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
Just had to flesh that one out. So I get 10% of royalties on because we worked on that together.
Hey, man.
So. Man, let's transition into the rapid fire questions, and these are always going to sound a little bit disparate, and you're thinking, what are these crazy questions they're asking? But man, we always have a method to our madness and a reason behind this. But I'm going to ask you these. Just give me the very first thing that comes to mind. Really quick responses. So, did you get along with your parents growing up?
Yes, and moderate.
You know, the most common answer is mostly. I think
mostly is good. They didn't understand. I know it's rapid, but they didn't understand entrepreneurship.
Yep.
And I think if they understood it a little bit better, I think the relationship would
have been easier.
Yeah.
Do you have siblings?
2.
A pet. I saw the pet in the background.
Yeah. Best dog in the world, Mabel. Yeah.
Kids. You already answered that one.
Her name is Madeline. She is 4 months old, and she is beautiful and perfect and the cutest baby in the entire world.
Obviously, she is. Yeah. On a work day, what time do you wake up typically?
Well, now it is based on baby. So today I woke up at 5:50, 6 o'clock. But when I was not with child, it was probably like 8 and then 9, roll out of bed and go to work. But that was also because I stayed up until like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning doing work. But now I am more organized and structured, and I know how to run the business better than I have ever been before.
So the reverse question is, what time do you go to bed on typical work day?
Yeah, I mean, because most of our business is overseas, and it forced me for so many years to stay up late. It was around like 12 to 2, sometimes 3 o'clock. But now I'm like in bed by like 10:30.
Ideal vacation spot, money not an object, anywhere in the world.
Oh man, two places come to mind. My honeymoon was in Kenya, and the people are just absolutely incredible. The Maasai warriors
Yeah.
are inspirational. You've been? Have you been?
Yep.
You have? Okay.
Yep.
Oh man, just the coolest. And then Japan, Tokyo, I've been there, and it was just I hope it's not a once in a lifetime thing.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I've been to Kenya a number of times. Been to Japan one time in my life, and I would like to go back. So,
Oh yeah.
How does faith affect the way you do business?
Great question. I'd say my mom passed away. I'm sorry, this is gonna be a relatively longer one. My mom passed away a couple years, 4, 5, 6 years or so ago, and I'd say faith was not necessarily a priority prior, but meeting my wife, and her importance on faith, I would say the importance of faith now has increased astronomically for many reasons, but that's probably one of the drivers. So I would say it's very, very important. It's nice to believe in something.
Has it changed the way you do business?
Has it changed?
Or the way you approach
yeah.
business?
I would say so, yeah. I wouldn't say it's like faith focused, but I would
Right.
say that I do think about the other person a little bit more. I have a little bit more grace than I probably once did. And
A
I
little
don't
more
know if that's faith.
empathetic or something.
Yeah, I don't know if
Yeah.
that's faith or if that's just experience, but I would say that I would want to believe it's most likely faith. Oh,
Right.
actually, one more thing to that. On faith-based, and would recommend this to you, Kevin, if you don't do this, but almost every single day when my wife and I have dinner, we always say, "What are we grateful for?" And then we explain what it is. Like yesterday, it could have been like, "I'm happy for having meatballs," or like it doesn't have to be
Mhm.
specific. It can be specific, but it doesn't have to be like crazy. And like that, I would say that's like an equivalent to something faith-based. And that's been a huge factor because like if you're wherever your emotions are that day, you can easily just say, well, what are you grateful for? And then it kind of resets and it's just nice.
There is no doubt about it. Closing question. If you were king for a day, what is one thing you would change about the marketing ecosystem globally?
To show the real lives of digital marketing influencers and how their life that they portray on social media is 99% a complete fabrication and lie. I would like to expose all of those clowns that say that they make $1 million and they don't.
Yep. And rent that,
Because
that sports car.
Yes, correct.
For a day.
Because I can promise you that if you actually have $1 million, you're not talking about it. You're just you're enjoying your life.
Yep. Yeah, I love the way that you wrap that up. And that's been a fairly common, I guess that's been a genre of answer on to that question that we've had, that just, truth in marketing. Just, just cut out the spammers. Let's get back to truth. But Johnathan,
100%.
man, I really appreciate you just taking the time today. I'm glad that we were able to connect, even through the snafus of scheduling that we encountered early, but you persevered and joined us today. And just thanks for sharing your story. Thanks for sharing your insights and how just open and authentic and apparent, and just transparent that you were for our audience and kind of answer through these questions. But you really helped just add to the whole marketing space, but also I think educated those that are trying to grow and scale marketing agencies, which is really our mandate here on this podcast and kind of our primary audience. But we certainly want to just add value in the marketing space as a whole, that you have done in spades. So thanks again.
Thanks,
have a great weekend. Appreciate your time.
You too. Thanks.
Thank you for tuning in to another great episode of the Marketing Umbrella Podcast, where we provide the information you need from successful leading marketers to build and grow your digital marketing agency. To learn more, go to umbrellaus.com.